Greetings to all. So this model is a prediction of the merger outcome in case of the banks. So what we have done is we have looked at the premise, that is the background of the bank mergers. Why do bank mergers happen? So before the economic liberalization, most of the countries they were not practicing very open market practices. And after the economic liberalization in the late 1950s and 60s, US led the way, and corporate consolidation was a way of conducting the business. And bank merger wave also followed the corporate consolidation. And following the US model, a lot of countries, developing economies like India and Malaysia, we started following the corporate consolidation route or the bank merger route for achieving fast growth. And why do we need to predict the outcome? What is going to happen in case of a merger is after the merger wave that followed in the 1960s and 50s, a lot of success stories were reported from the US. That is particularly because the inherent inefficiencies were overcome in the case of US. But we didn't realize that, and a lot of countries like India and Malaysia, we started following the bank merger route for fast growth. And the existing literature in case of the US and in case of the other countries, they're kind of contrasting. So in case of US, we find some studies have found gain, and in case of other countries like India, there are certain studies which say that the merger results in a gain, and there are certain studies which says it doesn't result in any efficiency gain, and actually it results in a loss. So there is a need to find out what could happen in case a bank merges with another bank. And the methodology that we have adopted here is the data envelopment model, which is fundamentally a production model which considers certain inputs and which considers certain outputs. The relative efficiency is measured considering a bank to be a decision-making unit. And efficiency maximization is the goal. Like in finance, how do we do the maximization of the shareholder wealth? So in the production model, we consider efficiency maximization as the goal. And this kind of follows the chance model, what we call as the CCR model. But the difference is we have adopted variable returns to scale as compared to the constant returns to scale, which is proposed by the CCR model. And in case of bank mergers, the reasons are obvious. And the cost efficiency using the variable returns to scale, we have considered the equity capital, the interest expenses, the operating expenses as the inputs, and the outputs are increase in assets and the total income. Whereas in case of profit efficiency, the change is profit after tax has been included in place of the previous variable. All the other variables in terms of inputs and outputs, they are all the same. And the sample data that we used for analyzing the 16 bank mergers in India is presented here. And the efficiencies, mean score efficiency also are presented here. But this doesn't kind of completely reveal the whole picture. So you can observe in the third year there's a drop in the profit efficiency. There's a mean score, as we can see. So I went on to inquire like what was causing the drop in the scores, the efficiency scores. So I realized that there are certain banks which gained the efficiency after the merger, and there are certain banks which didn't gain in terms of efficiency, either the cost efficiency or the profit efficiency after a bank merger. So we probe further. I probed further to understand what was causing this, and we identified certain common factors. One of the major factor is the nature of the merger. This is not captured in the accounting data, of course, but we found out that in a way it reflects the accounting data. What we found was in the case of forced merger, the financials of the acquired bank was usually weak. When a bank is about to fail, Sometimes the governments, to protect the stakeholders' interests, they ask a stronger bank to take over a weak bank. So the accounting data automatically is reflected there. And in case of the forced mergers, we found the likelihood of no gain in the efficiency or a loss of efficiency was quite high. Second, what was identified was the acquired bank financials, especially the non-performing assets, bad loan especially, that plays a crucial role. That could be due to two reasons. One, maybe there was an existing load of bank bad loans, or maybe after the merger, the uh, new bank went out to expand and started giving out a lot of loans. That needs to be probed. And the third factor is the acquiring bank's financials. So, like in the case of rapid expansion, setting up of new branches, expanding the network, and in the case of non-interest expenses like advertisement, etc., when the expenses increased in the case of certain banks, we found those banks, they did not result in any, those bank mergers, they did not result in any sort of efficiency gain. So to sum it up, the nature of bank merger and the acquired bank financials, especially the non-performing assets, and finally the acquiring bank financials, spending in terms of the non-interest expenses and spending in terms of the rapid expansion, these could determine what is the outcome of a bank merger. So if there are any questions or suggestions, you can feel free to email me. Thank you.